Dear learners, I welcome you to this module on improvement of industrially important organisms. The fermentation process mainly depends on the efficiency of the employed organism or the strain. In order to make the fermentation process more economic and high yielding, strains are very important. The source of microorganisms used in the fermentation process is nature. The natural isolates have ability to produce industrially important products at a very low concentration. Therefore, attempts are made to increase the yield of the product by the concerned organism. Increase in yield can be obtained by the process of optimization of physical conditions of growth and nutritional environment of the cultural medium. Even though this physicochemical optimization leads to an increase in the yield, but up to a certain limit. Increasing the product yield has a natural constraint of maximum ability of that organism to produce the product. The actual ability of the organism to produce the product lies in its genomic manipulation. Genetic changes may result in the process increase in the yield to satisfy the industrial expectations. Production strains can be made by selecting natural mutants and selecting recombinants. Selection of a natural variant. Genetic changes occur whenever a cell divides. The microbial cells divide enormously, therefore, genetic variations are bound to take place. Many times, variations causes low yield because the potential of the organism decreases due to variation. In contrast to the above example, it is also noticed that the variation has resulted in superior organisms having higher potential than the natural isolate. Selection of the natural variant can be achieved by splitting out cultures and screening the progeny for its productivity. Selection of the induced mutant. The technique of mutation isolation has helped immensely in strain improvement. The increased productivity of the cell due to natural variation was compared with the induced mutation. The mutagen used was ultraviolet light and the organism was Streptomyces viridifaciens. The results explain that the survivors of UV treatment had inferior producers as well as cells increasing twice the amount of product produced by the natural isolate. The natural variation was found to decrease the yield of the product. In induced mutation, the selection of the mutagen is very important. It is very difficult to know that exact kind of nutrition which will perfectly increase the yield as per the expectation. Therefore, directed mutations are more fruitful for industrial fermentation. The first method is used to select mutants exhibiting higher levels of primary metabolites. To understand the above phenomena, we must first study the mechanism of biosynthesis of primary metabolites and the various ways of its regulation. The biosynthetic regulation is executed in two ways: feedback inhibition and feedback repression. Feedback inhibition. It is a method of regulation where the end product controls the enzyme catalyzing the initial step of the reaction in the cascade of biosynthetic pathway. Generally, the enzymes catalyzing the first step of the reaction are allosteric enzymes having multiple binding sites. Inhibition is caused because of binding of the product to the enzyme, which hampers the binding of the substrate to the enzyme. Hence, the subsequent steps are inhibited automatically as elaborated in figure 1. Feedback repression. Feedback repression operates at a genetic level. The end product of a synthetic pathway directly or its derivative in metabolism influences the genes controlling the synthesis of the enzymes, which are responsible for the biosynthetic reaction. The product or its derivative replaces the genes, resulting in non-expression, and therefore enzymes and the process is halted temporarily. Mechanism functions in coordination with the effect of immediate control and switching off of the end product formation, as shown in figure 2. Control of metabolic pathway which are branched. The metabolic regulation of unbranched pathway, as we have seen just now, is very simple because the product of the pathway is single. The regulation becomes more complicated when the pathway is branched and there are more than one end products, as we see in figure 3. Concerted or multivalent control. When the pathway is controlled by more than one product, then it is controlled by concerted or multivalent control. The end products should be in high concentration, only then the inhibition occurs, as seen in figure 4. Cooperative feedback control. In this type, there is a control executed by any intermediate when one product is in excess. It immediately controls the branch point towards the excess product. This results in limited flow of nutrients towards the excess product. The intermediates are then diverted towards a product which is still produced in low concentration, as shown in figure 5. Cumulative control. When a product has ability to control, but up to a limited extent independently, each end product also has control on the step just after the branching point. Sequential feedback control. This is an entirely different process where every end product exerts a control over the enzyme of the branch point reaction, as we see in figure 6. The branches result in accumulation of the previous product, which is what's the first step of the biosynthetic pathway. After understanding the basic mechanism, we can easily expect that a mutant which does not have any control over the synthesis of the product in increased amount, such mutant can be successfully used to produce the end product. As such mutant will not show the inhibitory effect, product will be continuously synthesized. After modification, it cannot produce the end product which are inhibitory if the cells do not recognize any molecule in between. The composition of the culture medium has an effect on the production of the product. This example guided the future experiments. This example helped in genetic modification of permeability of the target cell for increasing the product yield. Induce changes in the permeability. The role of permeability of cells play an important role in the synthesis of the product by the desired organism. The concept of cell permeability arose from an isolate named Corynebacterium glutamicum. Kinoshilai et al. In 1957 observed that the permeability was affected by the concentration of biotin in the medium. The organism produced glutamate at a concentration of biotin below 5 micrograms per dm cube, but at higher concentration it produced lactate. The composition of the culture medium had an effect on the production of the product. This example guided the future experiments. Mutants which do not produce feedback inhibitors or repressors. The main control on the amount of product formed is due to feedback inhibition or repression. If any such mutant is isolated, the yield of the product would be very high due to absence of the repressor or the inhibitor. Care must be taken to provide the intermediate at concentrations required for optimum growth of the cell as given in figure 7. In figure 7, C will be accumulated if E is provided at a minimum growth concentration. Use of auxotrophs for production of primary metabolites. The most popular strain, C. glutamicum, was used for production of amino acids, but should be supplemented with biotin. This nature is used for production of lysine. The pathway favoring lysine production is shown in figure 8. Mutants that do not recognize inhibitors or repressors. Auxotrophs are very successful in production of high yields. The problem causes when the product of interest is the end product which control its own synthesis by feedback inhibition or repression. Let us take an example over here through figure 9. If our product of interest is C, then auxotrophic mutant for D will be promising for the product formation, but if D is the product of interest, then the auxotrophic mutant will not resolve the issue. Under such situations, cells in which the enzyme E does not recognize D, successful production of D is possible. There are two methods for isolation of mutants lacking recognition of control factors. Isolation of cells showing resistance towards analogues, isolation of revertants. Analogues are substances which are structurally similar to another molecule. Such similar molecules can be used to determine the sensitivity of self towards the analogue. Mutants should be screened which does not have any effect even in the presence of analogue. The gradient plate technique for isolation of analog resistant mutants was proposed by Sermoni et al. In 1969. Agar plates with increasing concentration were taken and 10 to the power 6 to 10 to the power 9 cells were inoculated. After several days of incubation, the lowest concentration of the analog which supported the few colonies were selected. The colonies growing in the presence of analogues are considered to be the resistant mutants. After several days of incubation, the lowest concentration of the analog with few colonies were selected. The colonies growing in the presence of the analogues are considered to be resistant mutants. A second technique was given by Cybulski in 1952. It is called as the gradient plate technique. 20 ml of molten agar is poured in a Petri plate with the analog. The plate is kept in a slanting position for solidification. Normal agar medium is then poured on it and the Petri plate is now kept straight. The analog diffuses vertically and forms a gradient. The results are shown in figure 9. The colonies which are isolated and which grow away from the zone of luxurious growth are then selected. Mutants showing increased production of secondary metabolites. There are certain secondary metabolites whose production has been improved when its biosynthetic pathway was not known. At that time, the strain improvement was done by using hit and trial method, which is also called as empirical approach. Later on, the process of direct approach were utilized. Later on, the process of directed approaches were utilized. Use of recombinant systems. Application of parasexual cycle is one of the most convenient method of using recombinant systems. Parasexual cycle. In some fungi, there is no sexual stage. Recombinations are therefore difficult to be seen in such organism. Such nuclear fusion and gene segregation can take place outside the cell. This process is called as the parasexual cycle. In fungi imperfect, the two nuclei undergoing the fusion must be of different type. Therefore, the type of recombination is possible for the organism in which unlike nuclei are present in form of heterokaryon as the fusion product. The steps for a parasexual cycle are establishment of the heterokaryon, the nuclear fusion, the crossing over resulting in the haploid recombination. Agents like camphor, vapor, UV light help in nuclear fusion. Segregation during mitosis is influenced by X-rays, UV rays, parafluorophenylalanine. The parent cells which will undergo the process of parasexual cycle show slow growth when grown on minimal medium. The parental cells will grow slowly, but the heterokaryon will exhibit a fast growth. Drawbacks. Diploids produced by parasexual cycle are unstable. The diploids sometimes face the problem of degeneration. It can be used for the development of a recombinant haploid. Advantage of parasexual cycle is it not only helps in the production of parasexual recombinants, but also helps in production of beneficial properties which would make the industrial production more economical. Use of parasexual cycle for strain improvement has been used by Elander in 1967, who isolated diploids of Penicillium chrysogenum. The diploid exhibited higher yield than the parental cell. Applications of protoplast fusion. Wall-less cells are called as protoplast. The cell walls are removed by applying the cell wall degrading enzymes. The cell fusion and the nuclear fusion between two protoplasts afterwards regenerate the cell wall. Industrially important microorganisms which has demonstrated protoplast fusion are Streptomyces species, Bacillus species, Corynebacterium species, filamentous fungi and yeast. Protoplast fusion is an excellent alternative for fusion of fungal protoplast where traditional methods are unsuccessful. Hamlin and Ball in 1979 used protoplast fusion for C. acremonium, an industrial producer for cephalosporin. Two strains were used for the cross. One was a non-sporulating strain with high yield and other was a sporulating strain but fast growing organism. Recombinant was isolated that combined the desirable properties as shown in figure 10. Protoplast fusion has been used for improvement of amino acid production by different strains. Karasawa et al. 1986 used this technique for improvement of lysine production by repeated mutation and directed selection. The strains isolated were high lysine producers but have low glucose consumption and slow growth rate, which are undesirable characteristics accompanied during selection. Protoplast fusion was performed when high yielding lysine strains and fast growing lysine strains. The heterokaryon executed the desirable characteristics of both the parents and therefore the heterokaryon with high yield in production and high rate of growth was obtained. Recombinant DNA technology. The recombinant DNA technology provides an opportunity to combine DNA from two entirely different sources to form a unique sequence which can be expressed. There are two methods: in vivo method, where a phage particle takes up the DNA from one bacteria and introduces it in the host. In vitro techniques use a carrier molecule which is a vector DNA. This DNA is inserted into the vector and then is introduced in the host organism, which acts as a mediator for expression of the desired gene. There are four components of recombinant DNA technology: source of the gene of interest, a carrier molecule called as vector, the method of using the gene of interest inside the vector, method of quantification of the product formed by the recombinant cell. Applications of recombinant DNA technology. The main application is production of heterologous proteins. The very basic example of heterologous protein is the production of the human growth hormone by E. coli. It is used for the treatment of hypopituitary dwarfism. The main source of human growth hormone is human brain. It can be directly used as a source, but the quantity derived from the source is very less and cannot satisfy the demand in the market. Above all, there is a risk of contamination in this process. The indirect production. The indirect production through E. coli satisfied the quantity demanded in the market, and the risk of contamination was also nullified. There are many recombinant proteins used for medical purposes. Example: insulin, growth hormone, tissue plasminogen, erythropoietin, interferons alpha and beta. There are some limitations for use of E. coli, like the product formed was insoluble in nature, the product was not in the form of secretory protein, and the product was remaining inside the cell itself. Being a prokaryotic host, the product could not be modified through post-transcriptional modification as in case of eukaryotes. The solution to this problem was found in the use of yeast mold as host. The recombinant chymotrypsin was prepared successfully using Aspergillus niger. It had a good yield, it had no toxin production, and the transformation was easy. I thank all my learners for patient listening of this module and hope that it had helped you to understand the topic. Thank you.